In this most solemn of moments, in the most solemn of days, they looked on him whom they had pierced. And a great darkness fell upon the land. The earth shook. The curtain in the temple was rent in two. And then Nicodemus came with ointment. And Joseph of Arimathea said, "May I have his body and take him and place him in the tomb that I had for me and my family." And they were given permission to do so. And they took Jesus down from the cross, wrapped him up in the linen that Joseph had brought with some of the spices. And the women were there too, but they wrapped him up hurriedly so they could finish before the Sabbath began. They were rushed, and they wrapped him and anointed him as best they could, not with all of the prayers, not with all of the care that they normally would have taken, but quickly, urgently, to place him into the tomb. And they rolled that stone over the entryway. Joseph and Nicodemus brought the best gifts that they had. They had what was needed in the moment, and they brought that. And the women stayed as long as they could to help wrap Jesus quickly, urgently. And the earth fell dark, and the curtain in the temple was rent in two. Everything that was certain ended. Everything that was expected shifted. Things that were whole were broken. Things that were light became dark. Their whole hearts were broken like the temple cloth. Their brightness and certainty about what would be coming and the joy and the possibilities fell dark as the darkness descended. You and I know that moment where the earth shifts out from under us, where things that we thought were certain are not, when our hearts break in two. Maybe you've noticed this during a deep depression or a time of deep sorrow, or the sudden, expected or unexpected death of somebody that is knit into your life and that gets torn. And there's a sound that happens in your ears where the sound actually changes. Have you known that sound, that rush? And your vision actually changes. It's like you can't see what's around you. Have you been in that place of such immediate and intense deep grief where it's hard to hear and hard to see? It's as if the earth has gone dark and you can't gain your footing. If you, like me, have been blessed, there are people that come to you in that moment and pin your feet to the ground and hold things steady for you and help light the pathway one day at a time. We weren't there to see what actually happened in those moments. We have to rely on those who were. We rely on the story that is told and then told and told and sung so beautifully with harmony and disharmony and point and counterpoint, raising us up beyond logic, beyond reason, beyond the physics and science of things, transcending beyond our rational thoughts to a truth that is beyond that we only can hear in music and story and poetry and art. And that moment that happened so long ago happened outside of time and space. It is also a cosmic event. It was also an event that continues now as we bring it back in story and song and poetry. We collapse time and we collapse space. Mere fiction, anyway. The real truth lies in the song and the poetry, doesn't it? And we know that. We are there with them. We do see this. We know that darkness. And we bear witness to what continually unfolds here and now that was begun so long ago. All of the deaths in this death, all of the times in this time, and all of your grief wrapped up in this grief of the mother at the foot of the cross. Intent and hope that the preparations that they made for this beloved body would be enough. Have you ever hoped that what you had to offer, urgent, the only gift you had in the moment, that it is enough? Maybe hurriedly offered, wholeheartedly, but worried that it was enough, given in haste and with urgency, fumbling, bumbling, but doing it just the same as best you can in the moment. And yes, then it was enough. It was enough then. It is enough now. It was enough because that cosmic event on the cross was the moment of the forgiveness of all sin. Sin, not a marker of what you did right or wrong that somebody else places upon you, but sin defined as that which separates you from God, separates you from God, separates you from who God has called you to be. That sin has been bridged by the life and the death and the resurrection of Christ, and it happened on that cross and continues to happen over and over and over again. Each time you and I step aside from that which God has called us to be, we cleave ourselves off and we are brought back in. Because God is fierce and jealous and does not let you go ever. This cross is set to make sure that you forever and always are in that embrace of forgiveness. And allow yourself to stand at the foot of the cross with the women, with Joseph, with Nicodemus, and feel the sorrow of those ages and of the now. That sorrow that is yours and the sorrow that is others. For once we open ourselves to that possibility, it is hard to break ourselves off from one sorrow or another. We feel the sorrow of those fleeing in war-torn places, the sorrow on our streets here, the sorrow in your own family, the sorrow in your own heart. Today is the day that the church turns us to look at the foot of the cross and be present to that. To be present to that and to allow God to see your heart and join with Him. Allow God, allow her to heal that which is broken, forgive that which is sin. And from the cross pours out such sorrow, such joy, and such healing. Nicodemus showed up with spices and linen. Nicodemus, the one who came to Christ in the middle of the night because he was scared and asked, "What must I do?" And Jesus said, "Be born again, not born again by blood and water, but by the Spirit. Be born again from above," is what Jesus said. And we too can kneel at the foot of the cross and allow ourselves a rebirth in the Spirit, a rebirth that makes space for God's healing and redemptive action to take place. And like for the women and for Nicodemus and for Joseph, that is at the foot of the cross with the gift of presence and prayer and linen and spices. It is at the foot of the cross, the stone of a borrowed tomb, the careful tending of the most vulnerable in the darkest of the most vulnerable of days, that we find the path of healing and wholeness. Amen.